crazy weather. It was over 100 degrees here like literally 3 days ago. Today it's 57 and we got a couple inches of rain overnight, so just weird how fast the temperature changes. And I'm not going to complain because it feels like half the country's on fire and the other half is flooded. All the little birds are laying. Time to get the nest cleaned out. Getting our first eggs off the Cackle Hatchery surprise bird package I got back in March. It was, I think it was 40 something birds that I got. And you get probably 3/4 pullets and maybe 1/4 cockerels. And I got a couple ducks and 3 turkeys with it. I sent the cockerels that I didn't want off to the butcher, and those are in the freezer now. I made out pretty well with them. For roosters that were like 3.5 months old, I think they dressed out about 3 pounds or so, and so those would just be like stew birds or pot pie birds, I guess. The ducks I sold, and the turkeys went to the butcher at the same time as the cockerels, and those dressed out about 12 pounds, I guess. So I'm going to do that again next year. I've got some videos on that Cackle surprise package. You can see those in the playlist under chickens. Today we're going to just do the farm chores, and then we're going to look at a couple things that I want to show you. So stick around. I'm not sure where the rest of the cows are at this point. They must be out on pasture. They like to go way down back. Usually they're up here trying to get breakfast with everybody else. But I put the babies in at night just because they're still kind of little, and I don't want something like a coy dog or something to come grab them. And so we give them hay at night because they're skinny. They are dairy cows, so they will be skinny anyway, but I don't like it when they start showing their ribs like this. That gets me a little concerned, so I'll keep them up next to the house so we can wind the feed to them. The big cows have been slamming and getting stuck, and it's like they try to mount each other while they're in here feeding, and they have been really raising heck with this. They've broken the straps off a few times, so we put some extra straps on anyway. I broke this. They'll be around about 3 more weeks and then they're gonna go. So I'll probably come up with some other plans besides this for that many cows, just because it seems to not stand up to it. And when you get full-size cows, they get slamming around on stuff and they pretty much break everything they touch, kind of like my kids. So we don't want to let the chickens out until after lunch because they end up laying their eggs pretty much everywhere. All the cats are in here looking for breakfast. They do a pretty good job getting mice, but so that's Pebbles. Pearl, and Dexter the mouse assassin. Well, I guess you get to eat later, Dexter. So this is my grain bill for the week, and I had to go up on my eggs because the price of layer pellets has gone up over $5 a bag since January of this year. So it's about $16.40 a bag, and a bag will last me about a week. I've been mixing that grain in with black oil, sunflower seeds, and kelp, and then I thought that if I got some scratch and mixed that in, that would defray some of the cost, but the price of scratch is $15.35, so that's really not saving me any money. And with the no copper added, so it's NCA stock, and that's up to over $15 a bag now. My sister and brother-in-law have a farm 2 miles away, and they grow oats and corn, and so they mill it and dry it there, and I can get that for $200 a ton, but that's gone up $40 this year too. And so I started out this year with a fixed price on my beef, and I was charging $7.50 per pound hanging weight. And that sounds like a lot, but once you start figuring in how much it costs to just maintain the farm and what it costs to put in for those cows, that you really pretty much break even. So everything farm related has just gone through the roof this year. The oil, fuel, spare parts are insane. Barbed wire, electric wire, shavings, you name it. Anything. And people don't understand the cost associated with running a farm. I mean, you've got the things that you don't think about, but the difference in your electric bill, running the pumps and the electric fences, heat lights for the baby animals, and then you got water. You got to have water everywhere, so you've got costs associated with pumping and distributing the water. You've got, not to mention, all the feed that you buy, and whether you grow your own feed or you buy it, there's still a cost associated with it, and I can't make the math work where growing my own feed makes any sense, just because I don't have good, clean hay fields on the property or really anywhere near me. And so because I don't own the hay fields I used, I was essentially putting money into somebody else's field, and that was money that I would rather spend on my pastures. So instead of putting lime and fertilizer on them, I'm distributing my manure and buying lime and putting it on my pastures to improve the pasture quality, which should relieve some of the stress on buying feed. But hoses, I mean, it goes on and on. Chicken waterers, cow water. They got to understand too that the animals, in using the equipment, break the equipment. So cows will step on a bucket and break it. They'll rip electrical boxes off the side of the barn. They knock down fences. So you got to buy fence posts, insulators, a sheep fence, and then you've got the costs with ivermectin, the wormers that I don't arbitrarily worm, but you can tell the signs of when animals need to be wormed. Insecticides. So I use primarily permethrin and citronella on the cows, because the horse flies and horn flies, they make the cows crazy, and so you have to treat for insects. And I buy it's Wind and Rain. It's a Purina product. I'll show you. So I buy this Wind and Rain product here, which comes in this bag, and that's like $40 a bag, and then you can put it outside for free choice, and it's not affected by the weather, so when it rains on it, it doesn't turn into a block, and it doesn't, if you just put regular salt out there, it is an issue. But that has fly control in it, so what happens is when the animals defecate, you'll have the eggs that would form insect larvae, but the fly control prevents those eggs from actually hatching out into the larvae, so you're not allowing more insects to breed. So, you know, if the vet comes out and she's working on a cow or a sheep, I'm not hesitant to ask her a number of questions related to the species. So if she's out here on a cow, I feel like I'm paying for her time, so I'll ask her cow questions. If she's out here for a sheep, I'll ask her sheep questions, but I don't want to like cross species. I feel like that's kind of I don't know, it's cringy in my mind, so I don't do it. But she lives 3 miles, or the clinic is 3 miles away, so it's $150 to just show up in the driveway before she even starts to work on the animal. So what I'll do is, if it's a calf or a lamb, or even sometimes a full-grown sheep, I'll bring it to the clinic, and that'll save me the house call charge. But I'm not hesitant to have my animals treated by the veterinarian when it's necessary. And I really feel like if you're going to be a farmer, you have to be an animal lover. And I know that sounds kind of strange maybe to some people, because ultimately you're sending them to be butchered, but I can go to sleep at night knowing that I've given the animals the best care that I possibly can. I also know that you'll get people who will say, well, I can get $2.89 beef at Market Basket, or I can get 99 cent eggs at Market Basket or Sam's Club, and those aren't the people that I want, because I'm never going to make them happy. I'll never be able to create a product that I think is a quality product and sell it for that price. I know what goes into the feed and the care of these animals, and so I weigh all those factors together, and that's where the price comes up. I'm not trying to get rich off it. I'm never going to get rich being a farmer. Let's be real. I'm certainly not trying to rip people off, but I know sometimes you'll have another farmer say, well, geez, you're charging $7.50 a pound for hanging weight. I can do it for $4.50. Okay, I guess that's your call. You know, I can't do it. It's just not something. I've done the math, and so hopefully this farmer's done the math too. And you know, a lot of these farmers that are growing their own feed, they've got $100,000 in hay equipment, and so I don't see how I would ever make that investment pay for itself. If you're looking at, you know, $700 or $800, even $1,000 a year in hay bills. So let's say it cost me $1,000 for hay. 100 years is what it's going to cost me to pay off $100,000 in hay equipment debt. So that doesn't make any sense, particularly when I don't have my own hay fields. So instead of using that money to buy hay and equipment and invest in somebody else's property, I make do with smaller and older tractors for the most part, and I put lime and spread the manure on my own pastures and trying to improve the quality of those. But what's the point here? The point is, a lot of people I noticed in the last year during the pandemic and after the pandemic have become a little worried, and rightfully so, about where their food's coming from, and I totally understand that, and I support raising your own food. I also just want to warn people that the cost associated with starting a farm is so exponentially high that it's a lot of times what seems like is a huge expense to buy the food. You might end up saving actually money. So buying $3.50 a dozen eggs from me, or $7.50 a pound beef, is, if you do the math over the long run, it's still going to save you a lot of money over buying tractors and paying taxes on your land and etc. When I say usefulness, they'll still continue to lay eggs for a few more years, but you take the cost of what is needed to feed and care for those chickens versus the number of eggs that you receive from them. It doesn't make any more financial sense to keep them. So what'll happen is, now that these replacement pullets have started laying, once they've established themselves and are laying pretty regularly, somebody or someone's will get a pretty sweet deal on a flock of birds, because I will let this flock go and then just use the new flock, and then in the spring get another set of replacement birds. Every year what I do is I get a replacement flock of pullets to replace the aging flock, and that way, particularly during the winter, I've always got fresh eggs available. A lot of people, you know, they keep the same birds and they have this flock of chickens they bought, and then 2 years later they still have the same flock of chickens. They don't have any replacements, so the egg production is, you know, a third of what it used to be. There's a lot of people who bought chickens, and same reason, you know, they wanted to have some food. They wanted to have some positive control over their food source, so they spent, you know, it depends on what you buy. If you buy started pullets, you're looking at $12 a bird at the cheapest. I saw Facebook and Craigslist birds this spring. People were saying $10 a month. So if they kept that bird to when it would start laying, which typically is 4 months, on the average 4 to 5 months, you're looking at $40 to $50 a bird they were charging and getting it. And I don't understand why anybody would spend $40 on a chicken. It doesn't make any sense to me. I take good care of my chickens. I feed them a variety of good food. They get the highest quality layer pellets that I can get, and I supplement it with kelp, black oil, sunflower seeds, and some of the corn and oats my sister grows, plus they are free ranged here, so they get treated for coccidia when they're born in Merrick's. So my chickens are really well cared for, and so I figure I probably have 12 to $15 a bird in them by the time they're laying. So at 4 months I have $15 in them. And that figures in running the heat lamps, and it doesn't include my time. And so you figure $15 a bird. It's going to take, if that bird lays an egg a day, you know, figure 50 cents an egg. It's going to take that chicken like most of the year to pay for itself, if that makes any sense. And so I keep them, well, about a year and a half, 2 years. And these ones, last year I just melded the pullets in with some of the layers, and I weeded out a few of the layers this spring that I thought were ready to go. But if you go spend $50 a bird to buy it, and then you buy a chicken coop, and a lot of people are buying these chicken mansions from like Tractor Supply or whatever, and people are, you saw in Craigslist this spring, people were selling chicken coops. I didn't think they were really Taj Mahals, but they were like, you know, tiny chicken coops for 4 to 6 birds, getting anywhere $800 to $1,000 for them. So $1,000, and then if you buy 5 birds at, let's say $30 a bird, that's $150. So you're looking at, you know, you got $1,200 in house and equipment. You're not going to live long enough to make your money off your eggs. I'll sell them to you for $350. we have the farm stand now, and we have a refrigerator down there, and we always had the cooler before with ice packs in it, but it's always been a problem. I would send one of my kids down there a couple times a day to change out the ice packs, but I really didn't like the cooler situation. It just feels a little cringy to me. It didn't feel like a good way to do business. So we built the farm stand and have a fridge down there. So now I know that my eggs, I collected them every day. They're washed and then put right in the fridge. And so people will be like, oh, don't wash your eggs. They're good for 6 weeks. Okay. I'm not going to sell people eggs that aren't washed in 5 or 6 weeks old and then put them in a hot cooler. I won't do it, because it only takes one bad batch to ruin everything. Like we say in the military, it only takes one shit to ruin 100 attaboys. So that's an easy kill for me to not sell bad food. And I'm really adamant about cleanliness and just taking good care of your product. I've seen and heard stories this summer of people, with their coolers beside the road selling eggs, and there's not even an ice pack in there. It's just this cooler sitting out in the sun with a sign that says eggs $3 a dozen, and you open the cooler and there's just some eggs in there with no ice packs, and it's got the humid feeling of a cooler that's been closed up, and you're like, oh, I'm not buying those eggs. So I'm really, I guess, in a funny mood today. This here is an example of a piece of equipment that has more than paid for itself. I got this from Premier One, and I think it was probably around $50. And so this is a waterer that's heated. And so in the wintertime, you plug it in, it keeps it heated, and it's got these little nipples on the side, so the chickens just peck on these and the water comes out. This has been the best waterer that I've ever bought. I've bought the metal heated bases before, you put the metal chicken waterers on it, and those, you think steel's better, right? But the bases, they rust, and then it's kind of sketchy if the power system in there is going to set your barn on fire or not, so that's always a worry for me. And then the metal chicken feeders or waterers, you twist them, and a lot of times that handle will break off, and if you don't set it just right, the water's like leaking all over the place. Additionally, I prefer the nipples, because if the chickens sit up on this and they mess off the side, they're not messing in the water. And so that's what happens with those other watering systems. You'll see it with the waterer I have for the baby birds out there, is that they roost on it at night, and then the feces all drop in there, and then in the morning you've got a mess, so you're always cleaning it. This right here has just been a really awesome time saver and a great investment. And so, having running water in the barn like this saves so much labor. Of course, I can't use it in the winter, but for probably 9 months out of the year I can use this. I usually am able to use my barn water into December, at least until Thanksgiving. And then I got this device that hooks up to my air compressor, and it's got a hose fitting on the other side, which we'll use here in a later video, that blows all the air out of the lines. So I open up the valves one at a time, blow the lines out, and it's trouble free until spring. And so that's been a great investment. And so yeah, I've been really spoiled in a lot of ways, because I had the money to buy a lot of the farm tools and equipment before I retired from the military. But now that I've been retired, because you can't make extra money. Once you're retired, you have a fixed income, and that's what you have. And people might say, well, why don't you go get another job? Why don't you supplement your income? Well, to be honest with you, I am 100% disabled through the Veterans Affairs from injuries sustained while in the military. So I had to spend a significant portion of 2 years visiting a number of doctors, and it was, I know it was upwards of the teens, the number of doctors I had to go see. they sent me all over New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Maine to go see these specialists. Some were VA doctors, some were contract doctors, some were just civilian doctors. And so at the end of it, the Veterans Affairs sent me a packet and said, yeah, your disabilities essentially prohibit you from functioning as a normal human being. So I already had the farm, and so this is what I do. I guess he's having a rough day at the office. Have a couple spots left to line down on. This right here is an aftermarket 3-point adapter for McCormick's fast hitch. You can see that it just goes in these fast hitch prongs go in the sockets, and then on the back you put your 3-point on here. You have to latch this. You don't really need to put anything here because it's limited by how much travel it can go side to side. It's good for some things. A lot of the things really don't fit because the difference between the draft links, or what would be the draft links for the 3-point, are too wide. And occasionally you'll have something where the top link would go, it just doesn't fit right. So it's not an end all, but it does work pretty well. Definitely using the little Mahindra is more effective and efficient. It does have the ability for me to reach back pretty easily and grab the gate on the spreader to open it and close it. This one you kind of have to get off the tractor. I think I can maybe reach it, but it's going to be tight. And the PTO engagement obviously on this old tractor is a little bit more finicky, but it does work. And so these old tractors do earn their keep. There's a lot of nostalgia in this tractor in particular. When I was a kid, my dad and my brother and I would go haul wood out with it pretty frequently, especially in the winter, or fall I should say. And so my brother would drive and my dad and I would stand on the drawbar coming up out of the woods. So the sound of this tractor brings back a lot of memories for me. This field here won't need much. This is my sacrifice field anyway, where the animals go in the spring before I open up the pastures. So I think actually I can reach it. It's just a little bit tricky. And we can engage the PTO. There she goes. The 3-point hitch adapter kind of limits how far you can open the gate on it. So the other day when I was spreading lime, I was kind of going with the wind. Today I think I'm fighting it a little bit. We're still kind of the same situation though. Looks like a snowstorm behind me. Initially I thought these spin spreaders wouldn't spread very well, but the agitator in there actually does a pretty good job, so it is moving it out, but there's a much stiffer breeze today than the other day. Certain sound attracted me when it's getting low on fuel, and I just heard it, so I'm going to see if I can nurse this old girl back up to the barn, because I don't want to leave it out here for the cows to eat the wiring off it. And I know that my bulk tanks are empty. I don't have any fuel at the house, so she's getting thirsty. I can tell you that. Be able to go in through here, but everybody kept driving out there with their ATVs and making a mess, so I had to make it pretty much impassable. That's about when I decided to stop paying it, when everybody was ruining it, so there's no point anymore. Really hoping we'll top 500 subscribers next week, so if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and share these videos, give me the thumbs up, and make sure you comment. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I just want to let you know that I really do appreciate everything you do. Thank you, and have a good day.